Hey guys, it's Katie from Ubiquitous History. I'm trying to do my video, the second video, into two parts. It's very long otherwise. It's going to be about Henry VIII. The first one will be about his first two wives, and the last one will be about his last four wives. This is the book that I used for my research for these two videos. It's not a scholarly source, but it does use a lot of scholarly sources, so if you ever wanted to use it for an assignment or an essay or anything, make sure you use the sources that it uses, not this source itself. It doesn't really have a lot of arguments in it. It's more just basic facts. So to start, Henry VIII was born on June 28th, 1491 to King Henry VII and Queen Elizabeth of York. Henry was not supposed to be king himself, but his elder brother Arthur died in 1502, leaving the crown for Henry. So on April 29th, 1509, Henry received the crown, inherited the crown from his father when his father died. And then he married his brother's widow, Catherine of Aragon. She'd been married to Arthur for about 6 months, and they had never consummated their marriage, so the Pope gave Henry and Catherine permission to get married. So Catherine and Henry tried to have children. They ended up having a daughter on February 18, 1516, named Princess Mary. This would be their only surviving child. Otherwise, Catherine gave birth to stillborn children, or their children didn't survive past infancy. Princess Mary would be the only one to survive. So after that, again, no more children. And so Henry gets bored of Catherine and looks elsewhere to find someone who can give him his male heir that he so desperately wants. He ends up having an affair. He has multiple affairs, two known ones with Lady Elizabeth Blunt and with Mary Boleyn. With Lady Elizabeth Blunt, he actually has a son named Henry Fitzroy, but because he's not a legitimate son, he cannot be considered a legitimate heir, and he dies before he can ever become considered a legitimate heir. He dies in 1536. With Mary Boleyn, he has no known children, but there are rumors that he had two children with her. So after Mary Boleyn, Henry starts publicly courting Anne Boleyn, Mary's sister, and sends her love letters and gifts and such, and asks her to be his mistress. But she refuses, saying, "Nope, I will only ever be your wife. If anything, I'm not being your mistress." So Henry decides that he has to find a way to get Anne to be his wife and get rid of Catherine. So in 1527, he starts asking the Pope for a marriage annulment to Catherine. The Pope says, "No, that's not happening. I gave you guys permission. You are not sleeping with your brother's wife. This is your wife, even though the Bible says you should not sleep with your brother's wife. I gave you permission. I'm not going to give you an annulment at this point." So Henry keeps trying, the Pope keeps denying him, and so Henry decides in 1531 that no person should have more power over him in his own realm except for God. So he decides to declare himself the supreme head of the Church of England in 1531. And therefore he breaks ties with the Catholic Church in Rome, and therefore kickstarts the Reformation, the religious Reformation in England at this point. It went from being a very Catholic country to a very Protestant country like it is today. So after Henry decides that he's the supreme head of the church, he sets up ecclesiastical courts to get himself his annulment to Catherine. And in 1533, January, he gets married to Anne Boleyn in secret. That same year in April, he finally gets his annulment from with his marriage to Catherine. The courts give him this annulment saying, "Nope, your marriage to Catherine's invalid, and therefore your marriage to Anne Boleyn is totally legal and totally legitimate." So that same year, September 7th, 1533, Anne gives birth to a daughter, Princess Elizabeth, and like Catherine before her, she and Henry continue to try having more children, but it doesn't happen. Anne gives birth to stillborns and has miscarriages and is just as unlucky as Catherine is in that department. So she can't give Henry his male heir that he wants. In 1536, Catherine dies of unknown causes, and April 30th, 1536, Mark Smeaton, a royal musician, is arrested on the charge of having an adulterous relationship with the Queen Anne. So Henry had grown tired of Anne at this point, so he was like, well, let's find out a way to get rid of her. And these rumors start that she has all these lovers. Some historians say that it was just a plot to get rid of Anne, and some say that it was a legitimate thing, that Anne actually was guilty. But I won't argue either side. So Anne herself and 5 other men get arrested along with Anne's brother, George Boleyn, and they are arrested for adultery and in George's case for incest. So the four of Anne's apparent lovers are executed on May 17th of 1536, and 2 days later Anne herself is executed. In June of that same year, because of Henry's suspicions with Anne, he makes his daughter Elizabeth an illegitimate heir to the throne, thinking that she might not even be his own daughter. So Elizabeth's kicked out of this line of succession, and as actually was Mary at some point, a few years before, she refused to see her father as the supreme head of the church, and so Henry kicked her out of the line of succession. So at this point, Henry has no heir, and he needs to look for a new wife. So that will be in my next video. So see you later.